Come on, puppet, you have to move. Come on. Come on, get down. Get down. Come on, get down off the chair. Go on. Good boy. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought we would do a little bit of a bookish video. It's been a while since I've done anything bookish and the temperature's dropping here in the UK. It's getting a little bit cosy and it's starting to feel like autumn's definitely on the way. And for me, autumn and winter are probably the two seasons where I read the most. Like, I love cuddling up in front of the fire and reading. Who remembers the 12-hour readathon where I was reading in front of the fire? I don't know, something about winter, about when it starts to get dark, getting cuddled up in bed or on the couch and reading a book and staying warm, and it just feels like a cosy kind of activity. I know it's a complete and utter trope. All book people love autumn. It's a bit like stereotypical now, but it is genuinely true of me. I do really love reading in autumn and winter. So it's been a while since I did a book related video on this channel. So this is going to just be like a sit down, chat to camera, and I'm going to talk you through the pile of books that I am hoping to work my way through this autumn. So the first thing that I've noticed is that over the last 2-3 months, I've been kind of struggling to get through, sorry, I just thought I saw a spider drop down in front of my TV screen, which I don't think there was one. I can't seem to see one. If you suddenly see a spider running across my desk, you'll have to let me know in the comments. What was I saying? Yes, so the last couple of months I've noticed that I'm only really getting through 2 books a month, which is a really slow kind of period for me. I do this. I'll go through periods where I read really quickly and I can get through books in a matter of days. And then I go through periods where I'm just not really in a huge mood to pick up a book. And so it takes me kind of a couple of weeks to get through something. And if you get my e-newsletter, which if you don't get it, if you're not already signed up, please do sign up for my e-newsletter. It's kind of all bonus things about books and writing workshops and just what I've been getting up to in the month, little snippets of my creative writing going there. So if you want to get like exclusive additional content, then the e-newsletter is completely free, and the link will be in the description box, so you can go and sign up there if you want to. But if you've been reading the last couple of months of e-newsletters, you'll notice there's only been 2 book recommendations per month, and that's because I've been struggling to get through stuff. So I've based the reading list for autumn on the same parameters, that I'm going to have 2 books per month, just so that there's not too much pressure on myself to read more. If I get through all of these books and I read additional ones, then that's absolutely great. But I'm just going to put it out there that I'm only aiming to read 2 books per month. I know seasons are shifting a lot at the moment because of climate change, but for me, for this video, for the purposes of today, we're going to say that September, October and November are our autumn months. And these are the books I'm going to be reading then. It's a very waffly introduction, I do apologise. So let's get into the books that I'm going to read this autumn. So the first book that I'm going to read, and I'm actually going to start this this evening, is Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. Now, I have had this on my shelf for a really long time. It is one that I've been wanting to read, and I just never got round to it. It's like you can literally tell it's never even been opened. I'm not really sure why I never picked it up. I think primarily I'm not really a huge fan of kind of modern contemporary literature. I kind of prefer more historic things. And I think I bought this off the back of Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, and I really love that book, but that's a contemporary read as well. So I kind of wanted to give some space between the contemporary reads that I'm doing, and so I think that's why I haven't read it up till now, but I've heard some absolutely fantastic things about it and I really want to get through it. So yes, I'm going to read that first. The back of it says, "Meet Queenie, journalist, catastrophist, expressive, aggressive, loved, lonely, enough. A darkly comic and bitingly subversive take on life, love, race and family. Queenie will have you nodding in recognition, crying in solidarity and rooting for this unforgettable character every step of the way." So it does sound really good. I believe it's kind of a little bit of like a coming of age novel. I don't know anything about the content of it. I kind of haven't really read any reviews or anything. I'm coming into this completely blind, but with quite high expectations, because like I said, a lot of people have said that they like it. So that's what I'm going to read first. I'm then going to read The Wreck by Meg Keneally. Now, if you remember, and this is asking you a big if, I think maybe like in the middle of 2020, in the middle of the lockdown, I bought a load of books online from the works, and I think I went through them all on a video. If I didn't, I definitely did a reel on my Instagram, and this was one of the books that I bought. So it's been on the to be read pile for at least a year and a half, if not longer. Yeah, and I just thought it might be quite an interesting one to read in connection to the book that I'm writing at the moment. I'll be honest, I've been completely and utterly sold by the cover in terms of like assuming that the narrative takes place at the coast, and then I read the back and it doesn't. So I assumed there was some kind of like coastal story which might fit in quite well with my lighthouse novel, but I don't think it does. But it is a historical novel, which is the type that I say I like, so hopefully it will be quite good. And the back of it reads: 1820, London. Sarah McCaffrey, fleeing arrest for her part in a failed rebellion, finds herself alone and on the run. She boards the Serpent bound from London to the colony of New South Wales, and when the captain's reckless actions lead the ship to be dashed onto Sydney's notorious rocks, Sarah is the only survivor. Adopting a false identity, Sarah determines to make a new life for herself. She takes the first work she can find under the formidable Molly Thistle, who runs a sprawling trade empire. Sarah begins to see that there is more than one way of changing the world, but her new life is thrown into chaos when her past follows her across the seas. So that sounds quite good. It's got nothing to do with the coast, other than she takes a ship to New South Wales in Australia. But you know, I think it's still going to be quite interesting. I do really like stories of travels between different kind of countries. I think that's one of the things that I really loved about the Philippa Gregory, it's the Tidelands series, but the thing, I wasn't hugely enamoured with the Tidelands series, but one thing I did really like was the story of Ned, I think the brother who was in America, and his kind of narrative. I really liked his storyline, and so I'm kind of hoping that this might be the same, although you know, it's talking about going to the colony of New South Wales. I'll be really interested to see how much discussion there is about Indigenous communities in the New South Wales area and whether it delves into that side of the history or whether it's going to be a purely kind of white narrative. So it'll be an interesting one to read. And yeah, looking forward to reading that one. So those are what I'm going to read in September. Coming into October, obviously, we've got Halloween coming up. And so I was thinking about like kind of slightly spooky books that I could read, and something that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. I don't know why I haven't read it, because it's just right up my alley and I've had this book for so long, and it's The Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. It's one of those that everybody who loves haunted literature knows about Jamaica Inn. I actually know somebody who stayed at the Jamaica Inn for a wedding or a hen do. No, I think it was a wedding recently, and I was so jealous because I was like, oh, it's supposed to be really haunted. So yeah, I think that's going to be really cool to read in October. I'm going to try and read some more kind of spooky stuff in the month of October. I am planning a load of kind of spooky content for the second half of October. So October is also Black History Month, so I'm planning for the first 2 weeks of October to focus very much on Black History Month, and we're going to talk about heritage and the reimagining of Black narratives within heritage and country houses at the beginning of October. And then for the second 2 weeks in October, we're going to pivot more towards Halloween content. So just to kind of warm your cockles about what's to come. So this could very well get me in the mood for the spooky content that I will be creating towards the end of the month. And just in case you don't know what it's about, I'll read the back of it. It says, "The cold walls of Jamaica Inn smelt of guilt and deceit. Its dark secrets made the very name a byword for terror amongst honest Cornish folk. Young Mary Yellen found her uncle, the apparent leader of a strange men who plied a strange trade. But was there more to learn? She remembered the fear in her aunt's eyes. Out on the wild, rough moors, there were only two people to befriend her, a mysterious parson and an insolent, likeable rogue who broke the law every day of his life." So there you go. I think it's a gothic romance from what I understand. So I'll be really interested to see how I like that after so long of wanting to read it. And this is a really old copy, as you can see. It's in a bit of a state, and it's got a very kind of, I would say, 70s, 80s book cover. Let's see when this edition was published. Yeah, 1976. which I thought it was. Kind of, yeah, very kind of 70s woman on the front. So yeah, I am going to read that one. And then the other one that I picked up was this one, which I'm not sure kind of how gothic-y this one's going to be actually, but anyway, I'm going to go for it. I think because it's the kind of narrative is based in Amherst, Massachusetts, and I always think of kind of autumn, Halloween, Massachusetts, the Salem witch trials, and so it's probably got absolutely nothing to do with any of that. In fact, it's actually about the reclusive poet Emily Dickinson. Now, I do like a bit of Emily Dickinson. I've not read a lot of her poetry, but what I have read I did like, and I know there's that film about Emily Dickinson. I think is she a ghost, and it's got other people in it. Like other writers in it. I don't know. It's supposed to be quite funny, so maybe I could watch that after I've read this. And this is one of these that kind of goes over two different time periods. So it starts with August 1881. Mabel Todd arrives in... Start that again, Charlotte, calm down. August 1881. Mabel Todd arrives in Amherst, Massachusetts. There, she meets Austin Dickinson, a pillar of society, husband and father to 3 children. The two fall in love and Mabel is drawn to the great mystery in Austin's life, his reclusive sister, the poet Emily Dickinson. And then it goes October 2013, so it switched between the two times. Alice Dickinson wants to make a living as a screenwriter. She goes to Massachusetts to research the story of Austin and Mabel's love affair. Alice soon learns that the Amherst of today is as full of secrets, lovers and poetry as it was when Emily Dickinson was alive. So that sounds really quite good. Like I say, it's not actually ghostly or anything like that, but I just like the idea of it being like historical Massachusetts. I feel like that's going to be quite evocative for the time of year. So yes, I'm going to read that. So then, going into November, the last 2 books I'm hoping to read. This one is one that I'm actually kind of hoping to read and then re-gift or donate. It's part of my kind of ambition at the moment to get through books that I haven't read yet and then rehome them so that I can kind of stop having massive piles of books located all over my house. And this one has literally been on my shelf for probably years and I've never picked it up, so I am going to. And it's called Nathaniel's Nutmeg, and this is the extraordinary story of Nutmeg, the spice trade, the island of Run, and a heroic English adventurer. And that's all it says on the back. There's no kind of narrative, there's no blurb to tell me what the story's about, but I know that it's going to be about spice trade. Actually, this might be a better one to read in September, in the beginning of October. I might actually swap these around because that one's not got any spookiness in it. I think what I might do is in October I will read this one and I'll read this one, and that's because this one is very much going to talk about the spice trade and trading overseas. And I've got a feeling, I don't know if it's definitely historical, but I suspect it will be. And I think it's going to very much deal with the slave trade and with the trade of goods which are either created, harvested or manufactured using enslaved people. So I think that will be a really interesting one to read for Black History Month. So I will read this at the beginning of October. Then we'll go on to Daphne de Maurier, and then I will read The Lovers of Amherst at the beginning of November. So just to kind of sort that out. I will do like a list in the description of what order I'm going to read the books in. So if you want to read them with me, then you can also get those books or get them on ebooks or whatever, and we can read them together and then have a chat about them. Yeah, so I've had a little read of the back, and to be honest, it doesn't give anything away about what it's about. But that little 2-line kind of starter, I suppose, at the top of the back has me intrigued. And so the cover's really lovely, and I am a little bit of a sucker. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but I do definitely get drawn in by a good book cover. So with that and the little thing at the top about nutmeg and the spice trade, I'm in, and so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And yeah, just exploring something that has been on my bookshelf for a really long time, and I've looked at it before and thought I really should pick that book up and then haven't. So good for me for actually picking up a book that could very easily have just gone to the charity shop without ever being read. So the last book I am going to read this season is Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller, which is another book that I have heard so many great things about. It says here shortlisted for the Costa Book Awards. Now, I think it has actually won a couple of awards. I think it did. It says here shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. I think it won the Women's Prize for Fiction in the end. If I'm incorrect, I will write it on screen. And so I've heard a lot of hype about it. Now, I'm completely judging the book by the cover again, but I've got a feeling that it might be set around harvest time, around autumn, so that's kind of why I picked it. And the back of it says, when you live on the edge of society, it only takes one step to fall between the cracks. Jeannie and Julius have always been different from other people. At 51 years old, the twins still live with their mother Dot in their isolated ramshackle cottage, making music and growing, and sometimes killing, everything they need for sustenance. But when Dot suddenly dies, threats to their livelihood start raining down. Desperate to preserve their small sanctuary against the perils of the outside world, Jeannie and Julius find themselves pushed further to the margins as their mother's secrets begin to unravel, putting everything they thought they knew about their lives at stake. So that's really interesting. I have heard that it's absolutely phenomenal at kind of exploring relationships and kind of generational trauma. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this one. Like I said, I did start it and it wasn't a difficult read, but it was definitely one of those reads that you want to pay attention to. And I think I started it sometime when I was either tired or I was reading at night, and so I wasn't really getting into the narrative that much. But this is definitely one that I will persevere with, even if I find it a difficult read. Some books you just romp through and they're really easy to read and you really enjoy them and you kind of fall into the narrative, you don't have to try. And then there's some books that I do genuinely find quite difficult in terms of the language, but they're worth it. One of the books that was like that was Girl, Woman, Other, and I've heard a lot of people say that they didn't enjoy it because of the way that it was written, the language. But it's one of those that you kind of have to get through the first couple of chapters of it. Once you get used to the tone of the writing, I just was away with that book and I absolutely love it. I recommend it to everyone. I think it's such a great book. So this might be another one that's a little bit like that. You kind of have to get used to the way that Claire Fuller writes, and then I think I will fall into it a little bit more. And I'm guessing that once I've got a couple of chapters in with this, I'm not going to want to put it down. So yes, those are the books that I am planning to read this autumn. What do you think? Are there any that you've read already? If there are, please don't give me any spoilers, but let me know which was your favourite of the ones that you have read. If you haven't read any of them, are you going to join me? Are you going to come and read them at the same time? I'd really love it if at least one or two of you do follow along and read at the same time, because I love having discussions about books, and it'd be really exciting to kind of like go on this kind of book journey with you and to read them alongside each other, and then we can have a chat about them and stuff. So yes, that's it. Bit of a short video this week, but hopefully you don't mind too much. And I will see you again next week with another video. We'll be back to Monday next week. It was just because I was poorly over the weekend. I didn't quite get a chance to film and edit a video in time for Monday this week. And then with the Queen's funeral and everything as well, it just felt easier to kind of pop on today and create the video for today instead. So next week we'll be back to Mondays. If this is the first video of mine that you've seen, then please do consider subscribing. I create videos around history, heritage, books. I'm a writer myself, so I create videos around writing, my life as a writer, and lots of different things. There's the odd vlog thrown in there. There's probably going to be a dining room renovation video coming up soon because that's taken up a lot of my life over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, if that all sounds good, then please do consider subscribing, and I will see you next week with a new video. Take care. Bye.